Program is the active center. Today we're unpacking a document that really challenges the way you might think about humanitarian aid at the border.
Yeah, it's the July 2025 report from the House Committee on Homeland Security. It's titled An Inside Job.
And the central idea, the thing they keep coming back to, is this term they use, a border industrial complex.
Right, which is a very deliberate choice of words. I mean, it reframes the whole conversation away from just policy and focuses you squarely on the money.
And the numbers are huge. The report alleges something like $6 billion has been funneled to NGOs and UN agencies.
And here's the core allegation, that these groups have become less of an aid system and more of a pipeline that actually facilitates illegal immigration.
So our deep dive today is to figure out how that allegedly happened. How did humanitarian efforts, turn into this system of massive revenue spikes?
Well, let's start with the money. The report uses one NGO, Endeavors, as its main case study.
And the numbers are pretty staggering.
They are. In 2020, Endeavors had a revenue of about $52 million.
Okay.
By 2022, just 2 years later, that number was $1.18 billion.
Wow. From 52 million to over $1 billion. I mean, how does a nonprofit even scale that fast? Is it just more people, more money?
That's essentially it. The testimony suggests the federal grants are based on capacity.
Yeah.
So if you can process more people, you get more federal money.
And the report claims it wasn't just going to services, right?
Exactly. Executive salaries at Endeavors reportedly jumped by up to 139% in that same period.
So the organization itself has a direct financial incentive to keep the volume high. It reminds me of another group they mentioned, Southwest Key Programs.
Right. They reportedly got 99% of their funding, $3 billion total, from federal grants.
If 99% of your money is from the government for processing migrants, then your entire business model depends on that flow of people continuing.
And that's the perverse incentive a witness named Mike Howell talked about. This financial pressure changes everything downstream.
Which is where that really stark phrase he used comes in. He called Border Patrol agents glorified Uber drivers.
And if you follow the money, you can see why he'd say that. The NGOs need the volume to sustain that billion-dollar revenue stream.
Sure.
So Border Patrol's role shifts from enforcement to, intake.
The report calls it an assembly line.
It does. A witness laid out the whole chain. Cartels bring people to the border, they're handed to Border Patrol, processed by HHS, and then passed to these NGOs.
And when speed is the priority, to keep that money flowing, vetting just becomes a bottleneck.
It seems so. The operational failures they cite all point back to that. I mean, they talk about Cherokee Federal.
Yeah, what happened there?
Allegedly, they were hiring staff without proper background checks. The worst example involved a known gang member under a false name who was put in charge of placing children with sponsors.
That's unbelievable. And it's a direct result of trying to scale too fast. You can't hire people that quickly without standards slipping.
And the result of that is the most disturbing statistic in the whole report, the lost children.
Over 325,000 unaccompanied alien children, or UACs. But we should be clear what unaccounted for means here.
Right. Doesn't mean they vanished. It means the government released them to sponsors who weren't properly vetted and then completely lost track of them. The paper trail just ends.
And the supposed safety nets, they failed too.
Utterly. Between August 2023 and January 2025, the report says 65,000 calls to a safety hotline just went unanswered.
So you have a system that's incredibly efficient at moving people through facilities to get paid, but has zero ability to keep them safe afterward.
And you have to remember the journey they took to even get there. A journalist, Julio Rosas, testified that in one shelter in El Paso, there were reports that 80% of the women had been raped during their travel.
Just horrific.
And that gets to the committee's final argument.
Yeah.
That by funding this pipeline, the U.S. government is maybe inadvertently funding the very trafficking networks it's supposed to be fighting. The help is actually creating the market.
So the infrastructure built to protect people has, according to this report, mutated into a machine that exploits them for federal contracts.
And once that kind of industrial complex is in place, with billions of dollars flowing through it, it becomes incredibly difficult to reform or dismantle.
Which leaves us, and you, with a final, very provocative thought. If the whole system of financial incentives is fueling the exploitation it's meant to solve, how do we possibly take apart that industrial complex without removing the humanitarian support that people desperately need?
That is the dilemma, isn't it?
Stay curious, and we'll see you next time.